Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. Ms. Lewis, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to give a little bit of context on this. And I am channeling my CPAs back home, and you can understand why this is so important to them. Hurricane Ida hit Louisiana, and many found themselves without power. In fact, I went down to one place, total devastation, and the wife of the fellow doing the emergency management was most concerned about getting her tax forms in timely. And so even people who are punctilious, nonetheless, are having problems. And so I'm told that in response to the disaster, the IRS extended filing deadlines for businesses and individuals in Louisiana, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut till February 15th. And I appreciate that. But I'm also told, according to my accountants, that after November the 15th, returns had to be filed as paper returns because software vendors and the government shut off the system to prepare for the upcoming filing season. So my concern, all these folks filing by paper are going to have their returns stuck with millions of other delayed terms. And with only 11% of the phone calls being answered, that they won't be able to get through. So Ms. Lewis, just from your experience, how do the delays at the IRS impact those businesses, individuals taking advantage of a disaster tax relief? And what can the IRS do to provide relief in the situation such as I described?
Thank you, Senator Cassidy. I know this firsthand, not only because I'm from Mississippi, next to your state, and we do deal with disaster relief, but we specifically dealt with Hurricane Ida concerns. And in my case, I actually had to stop my preparation for this hearing so that I could finish those last returns that were due February 15th. I think the issue was the original extension date was January the 3rd, which made sense according to some 90-day timeline after the hurricane. But in that January timeframe, I had clients that were ready to file. And we had these conversations about, should I go ahead and file and paper file? How long will it take to get my refund? Or should I wait until IRS filing season opens up on January 24th and then file my return? It will be late, but at least it will be e-filed. It was a real struggle for us talking to taxpayers about that. Fortunately, they did come back and give us till February 15th, and I think in large part because that way we could e-file these returns. That was a tremendous help. But we continually to have issues with disaster, and we do have, we've supported the Disaster Retirement Savings Act and other disaster relief, and AICPA stands ready to help in any way on disaster relief because we do need that permanent.
Well, kind of related to that, and I'll follow up with you, and perhaps also a question for Ms. Collins. I'm told that there's a system, an internal system known as an O-freeze. The IRS is supposed to flag the zip codes affected by disasters, so those eligible to receive relief do, but that there's some measure of errors associated with this. Now, again, these are my accountants, and accountants are paid to be anxious for their clients' welfare. Because I ask, how often is sometimes? But I didn't really get an answer on that. But I can't imagine that failure to flag these zip codes correctly is going to cause potentially lots of complications for the taxpayers, penalty notices, et cetera. Has this been a problem in your experience? And then I'd like to ask Ms. Collins, what can the IRS do to reduce errors like failure to put in the O-freeze information correctly?
I'll let Ms. Collins speak. I was just going to speak as a practitioner. We have in the past had difficulties with hurricane or any kind of disaster relief that should be allowed to our taxpayers in our zip codes, but it somehow was not indicated by the IRS.
Can I ask how big of a problem that was, Ms. Lewis? Was that a major problem or just an occasional inconvenience?
I will tell you, we haven't experienced Hurricane Ida yet because we've just filed those returns. I'm very nervous because the current system with the backlog and the correspondence is much worse now than we had it with Katrina or with some of the other hurricanes at that time. It was not a huge issue, but we were able to reach the IRS then.
I see, but the fact that phone calls are only 11% being returned now could compound. Ms. Collins, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, our office monitors those, and what we did find was if you had overlapping disasters, that's where the challenge was with the IRS having the incorrect coding. They have gone back and changed that programming, so hopefully on a go-forward basis, that's not an issue. We also were very strong in pushing the IRS to move that January date because, again, we don't want paper returns if it's at all possible. So one of the recommendations we made in our annual report is going forward for the IRS, instead of just having a 90-day window, look to see the filing dates. Do we have the ability to electronically file? And that should be the extended due date. Do not move the extended due date to a situation where they'd have to file a paper return.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield.